Our community is filled with hundreds of stories from creators and entrepreneurs just like you. And through the Plutus Awards podcast, we plan to share these stories from bloggers to podcasters, writers, speakers, and more. So let's meet today's guest.
Hi, my name is Sandy Smith. I am the creator of YesIamCheap.com and the founder of the Elevate community, which hosts the Elevate conference. I started this a full 10 years ago back in 2009 because I had nothing better to do. No, I actually started this because I was drowning in debt. I woke up and I owed $120,000 and I had no idea what to do. So I started blogging my way out of debt, found that I liked it, got more financial education, and realized that there were a lot of people who looked like me who needed that information. So I focused on helping women and people of color live their best financial lives.
So I got the chance to speak with Jordan Cox. And so now it's a big honor for me to speak with the other half of the Plutus Awards team here, Sandy Smith. And so how does it feel knowing that you're going to be up there holding thousands of people captive on every word that you're saying? How does that feel?
It feels like it's about time. I know that sounds bad, but it feels like it's about time. I have been a Plutus contender for years, and I've never had the chance to walk across the stage. So now I get to live on the Plutus stage. So are you kidding me? It's my moment to shine. I am grabbing it by the horns. So yeah, it's about time.
I think so too. And I'm happy that you'll be up there. And I'm really excited to see what you two are going to be doing. When I was doing a little research, I was looking into your history here. And it was back in 2007, you owed $130,000.
Yeah.
And this was a catalyst that got you to start your very first blog. I think a lot of people listening, and me as well, have had something that has kind of pushed us to take action.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to ask you, like, why was it a blog that was your first thought? Like, why not maybe podcasts weren't really as big back then, or I guess you could have been making videos. Like, why'd you choose a blog to go with?
Yeah, I didn't think I was cute enough to be on video. So that was going to happen because YouTube was pretty big, but I'm like, these girls are put together. I don't have time to do makeup, and put all this stuff together. No, I actually started the blog because I had been following some of the couponing sites, and I thought the first thing I need to do is save money. So I've got to start doing coupons and taking advantage of deals. And I was like, oh, I'll just start sharing some of these deals and coupon stacks that I was putting together and stuff like that. Because honestly, I just wasn't exposed to personal finance. Now, here's the funny part. At the time, I was working in an investment bank. Investment banking is not the same as personal finance, okay? Your investment bankers that might be making a ton of money might just be drowning in debt. I wasn't an investment banker, by the way, but I worked in an investment bank. I was doing research and things like that for the major deals. And I just didn't know enough about personal finance because who learned anything about money, really? I felt that I had been responsible enough because most of my debt really was from school. And the other part of my debt was from starting a business that ultimately went belly up in the Great Recession. It's not like I went out partying and was swiping my credit card left, right, and center. I did what I was supposed to do. I went to school, like people said, and took out all these loans to go to school. And then, I got out of school, and that was that first real drive and push back then for people to try to start their own businesses on top of like working. And so I did that. And initially it was going well, but then I felt like I knew exactly when the recession hit. I felt like I knew because people just stopped spending money on things that were discretionary. And what I had was a boutique that was for fashion jewelry. Who's buying that when they can't pay their rent,
Yeah.
I started the blog primarily just because I wanted to share deals and have a place on the web where I could come to and see how much I owed at any given time. Because back then I would publish every month the exact amount of money that I owed every individual company. I was an open book. It was this much at this percentage rate to this company. And I wanted to be able to just come on and just, look at it at a glance and see how I was doing and trending. So that's really how I started. I didn't think anybody would ever find that site. Little did I know.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's the internet, but you feel like you got your own little private corner. No one's going to come bother you over there, right?
Who even knows who I am? Who's going to come find my site? Who's going to read my site? I didn't tell my family about it or anything. I don't think my mother knew that I had my blog until it was like 7 years in or something like that. I think I was in the
Wow.
Wall Street Journal. That's when she found out. Finally, when I was in the Wall Street Journal, that's when she was like, wait, somebody told me they saw your name in something. Yeah, it's this little thing that I've been doing for the past 7 years, But yeah, that's how I started. It's kind of weird thinking back now. I just really wanted to share some deals and have a place that I could go to at my fingertips where all my debt was listed together. Because you got to remember at the time, like Mint didn't exist.
Mm.
It was like, these apps that came out afterwards. They weren't there at the beginning.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
that's why I was like, I needed a place just to be able to see how much I owe. And that's why the whole reason why I created a blog was just to be able to do that.
No, that's really cool. I believe that is because of your personality that it actually took off. I think it's really clear who you are. And I think people are attracted to that through the work that you've been doing. And, I went back and I watched your Ignite FinCon talk that you did several
Which one?
years ago. It was entitled "Write Like You Have Balls."
Oh, yes.
And
That was my first one. That was actually my first time doing any kind of public speaking.
really,
Yes.
I'll give everyone a quick PG recap. Basically, you were saying put your personality into your work,
Yes.
which I think is huge. And I think that's why people have gravitated towards you in the work that you do. And so I wanted to talk to you about, your experience building communities and bring people to you and facilitating these conversations, because you've done this both on the small scale, on the large scale. And I wanted to kind of get some insight from you, from someone who's done both sides of things, because, I've talked to people who've had these huge, massive groups, but it's a completely different dynamic than when you're working in a small, more intimate kind of situation there. So we talked a little bit, and you said that you have a group that goes all the way up to 11,000 people, down to a more intimate size of about 47.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about the large group. How did that start? What made you decide to bring this large group together? And what is that dynamic like? How does that work? How does that feel for you?
So that group was created purely, it's not even by accident. They forced me to create that group. I discovered Periscope on the night before going to one FinCon. I think Darren Rouse went live on Periscope and I got a notification on Twitter or something, join me live on this app. I was like, oh, because he's in Australia. I'm in New York. There's like a 12-hour time difference or 14-hour time difference, actually. And so I was like, oh, and I was up late packing for FinCon. I was like, oh, let me see what he's doing. I click and I install the app and it's Periscope and he's talking and he's live. And I was one of the first people that had logged into his Periscope. And so I said something and he responded back to me. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I started watching Periscopes. Then I think I got to FinCon and Experian was broadcasting on Periscope and something happened with the feed and they couldn't continue doing it. He asked me if I could take over the Experian Periscope because I was on and I was answering questions from people who were just because I was bored. I was at FinCon. I arrived late. It didn't start until the next day. So I took over the Experian Periscope, which no large brand would ever trust somebody to do anymore, right?
Exactly.
I took over and I started answering questions and I entered the broadcast and I was hooked from then. And I started broadcasting on Periscope at FinCon. And I grew a following very quickly because Periscope was relatively new. And then my Periscope people just wanted to connect with me more. And I was sending them to my blog. But the thing is, they consume the information so much faster on my live videos because there was this two-way conversation going on that my blog just wasn't doing it for them. I could send them for more information on what I was talking about, but they wanted that interaction. So they were like, why don't you create a Facebook group? And I was like, Facebook group. Facebook group. All right, fine. And so I created a Facebook group and I think maybe 100 people. I thought maybe if I was lucky, I'd get 200 people that would join, whatever. Like 30 people signed up the first day. Then, a couple of my friends and I hit 100 and I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of huge. And the group just kept growing. I've had the group for 3 years. Now the group is growing at a rate of, we get about 900, almost 1,000 requests a month, 950 requests a month. We approve about 750 a month and decline about 250 to something a month. So it's growing very, very quickly now. And it could have been much, much larger, but I just was not interested in having this huge group. I remember when we hit like 4,000 or 5,000, I felt really overwhelmed because I'm like, there are 5,000 people and they were highly, highly, highly active. It's
Mhm.
not a group where you have 5,000 people who join and there are 20 people who actually talk. No,
Exactly. Yeah.
they're really, really, really active. And I felt that pressure of delivering to 5,000 people who came to hear what I've got to say. And I shut the group down for new members for months. I'm like, I'm not adding anybody new. And the people within the group were seeing so much value that they were like, can I add my friend? Can I add my friend? You don't have to open it up. I just want to add this friend or that family member because this person keeps asking me for money. And I want them out of my pockets. I want them to see that they can make money on their own. And I want to add them. And I was like, fine, I will open it for like a day or two. You can add your family members. And then when I saw that it was like 100 something people that they added within a day, I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to reopen it. We opened the group again. I shut it down again at 8,000 because I think at that time I was just about to have my son and I was like, I don't need the stress.
Yeah.
Then other people stepped up. They're like, we'll be moderators in your group. You go off, have your baby, enjoy your time. We'll moderate the group for you. And these are people who had been there from day one from Periscope who, and they do it for free. And I was like, what? You're willing to put up with this mess for free? Okay, fine. So I added 4 moderators and another admin so I could kind of breathe and closed the group down again and then reopened it again. And so now it's been open. But building that group was just super organic to me. And most of the groups that I have been organic, but it was because the individuals who I was reaching asked for the information. They asked for this other way to connect, right? And had they not, I would not have thought about it. So it came from stumbling into thing from Darren Rouse to taking over Experience Feed to then realizing I could do this on my own, doing it myself, to then them pushing me to create a group. And the group's been super successful, I think. Out of the 11,000 people we have in the group, we have a little over 11,000. We just hit 11,000 yesterday, actually. And now it's 11,000, like 50 people. The active members, it's about 8,700 active. That's really, really high a number of active people. And active means they come into the group, they look at stuff, they read, they interact at least once a week. So they're really consuming the information that's in the group. It means for me that I need to continue to foster a conversation amongst the group members that's like really helpful for them. Making sure the group is very positive, a safe place for people. And this group primarily caters to women. The group is 94.7% females. And this is a group dedicated to side hustlers. It's called a hustle crew. They're for side hustlers, micro entrepreneurs, small business owners, whatever you want to call it. And it's helping them create a business or discover a talent or expand a talent that they have that they can monetize to make additional income. And this kind of spawned because way back in the Ice Age, when I had that $130,000, I realized at one point that I just wasn't making enough money. It wasn't that I was bad with my money. I just wasn't making enough. I lived and worked in New York City and I just wasn't making enough. I pay 6 taxes on my paycheck, you know? So
Yeah.
I needed to make more money. And I realized that a lot of people were like that, were just like me. They were working, they were responsible people. They just need to make more money. They need to supplement their income. And then when I changed careers and went to HR, I really felt like you need to make more money outside of your job. Because some evil person like me could tap you on the shoulder one day when you've done nothing wrong and tell you that you don't work for the company anymore. The company just needs to save money, right? And I might not want to fire you, but it's my job to fire you, even though you've done nothing wrong. I've been part of mass layoffs where I've been laid off twice working in financial services in New York City. That's a regular occurrence.
Mm.
It is not, unknown that a company says they're going to lay off, 3,000 people, 4,000 people, and you're one of the 3 or 4,000. That happens. It's very cyclical in New York, right? And even outside of financial services, it will happen that companies need to save money. And the easiest way for them to save money is by getting rid of people. And you could have done absolutely nothing wrong. So I've learned and I teach people not to depend on their job for all their income, ever, ever. It doesn't need to be much. Maybe it's only paying your car note. Maybe it's paying your commuting costs. Maybe it's paying daycare or something. But it's some other money that you're able to generate not connected to your job. And that's what I want people to learn from that group and fostering that group and creating that group and making it a place where people feel comfortable to be able to share how they're thinking about making money or learning that and being comfortable to share what they're doing, what's working for them, what's not working for them, finding out what other people's experiences are, and just having a community that feels intimate, even though there are 11,000 people in the group,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel that big. It feels very, very small in the group because it is a safe space.
And that is surprising for a group that large. But I can see why people find so much value because you're actually connecting with them, and I think helping them deal with something that is an issue for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I want to know. So, how does that compare then to the smaller groups that you work in and that you're running? Because that feels like a completely different
It
dynamic.
is a huge animal. So for the large group, I feel such a responsibility. I cannot even tell you the level of stress that I have in that group. I have to have the other individuals in the group that help me moderate the group to remove things. People will come in and post something that's a scam or whatever.
Mm.
People know that I'm very, very heavy handed in that group. If it's something that does not follow my rules, you're out, period. And the moderators and admins are empowered to make that decision without me. They're empowered. You guys, if you know what it is when you see it, you delete or remove somebody from the group. I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to overrule you. And that's what I do. And I've had enough people that have been put out of the group who ping me, DM me, and say, "Hey, I don't know why you removed me from the group. I didn't remove you. Somebody else did. I trust their judgment. I'm sorry, I won't add you back." So there's a huge responsibility for that group than the smaller groups. So I have a community, Elevate Community Group, that's about 240 something people. They are financial influencers of color and they speak to audiences of color. And so that group is very different. It is new for me. It is a different dynamic than my third group, which is Elevate Mastermind. So I'm going to talk about the mastermind because the community group in the middle is a little bit different. And I've struggled with the community group a lot. The mastermind group was born out of me seeing just how bad the recession had affected people of color. And sitting in the personal finance space, just knowing and reading the stats and reading what the solution was, there just weren't enough people of color who were money and finance experts that were visible to other people of color. And so I said to my friends, we really need to work on visibility here. We need people to know that we exist, that they could relate to somebody like me who had $130,000 who's trying to side hustle, making some money to get out of debt, or they can relate to a Tiffany Aliche who was a teacher, and ended up losing her house and sleeping on her parents' couch and then building it all back from nothing, or like a Tanya Rapley, who Flash, who was married and had some domestic violence and had to restart her entire life, or a Kevin Matthews who didn't have any of that going on, just had some student loans, but now was in a place where we need to learn how to invest, or Jason Vittug, who is an Asian person talking about personal finance, which you don't really see that much of, and talking about his journey and having like a whole crisis and being depressed and having to step away from everything and coming back. People need to know that there were people out there who had those stories, who looked like them, who they could connect with. And I realized that they weren't seeing us. We weren't visible. So I formed that group with my friends. And that group got up to about 100 people. And that group was supremely intimate,
Mm.
very, very intimate. When I tell you very intimate, we even named ourselves. Okay. That group, we call ourselves the Browns because it didn't matter. We were all part of the diaspora, right? Because if you're not white, you're brown. So we were the Browns and we are the Browns still. And we looked at each other as family. We still call each other family, and we shared, when I tell you everything, we shared everything. Our entire theme was collaboration, not competition. And we live and die by that. If you can't live and die by collaboration or not competition, you're not a part of the mastermind. And that hasn't really been a problem. People share everything from, like, a Tiffany will come into the group and say, I have this opportunity to speak at this event, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. Is somebody else available? This is what they're looking for, A, B, C, D. I'm going to tag who I think would be great for that. Are you guys available? Who does that?
Man.
Or you'll have like an Amanda Abeo will pop into the group and say, "Hey, this brand reached out to me. I, signed a deal with this brand, and they're looking for other people who look like A, B, C, D. Is anybody interested?" Or a Dominique Brown will come in and say, "Hey, fam, I just created this product. Here's how it's doing financially. If you're trying to level up in your business, follow my business model. Here's what I did. Here's my blueprint. People are sharing the exact things that they're doing within the group. And you never, ever, ever see that. They're actively trying to make sure that we all succeed. And at the same time that we're helping the communities that we serve. And there's a very, very special dynamic about that group. I don't feel like that's something that you find every day. And cultivating that group as being a safe space has been very, very important to me. Even as a group owner, I say, I don't own this group. This is you guys' group. I just happen to be here. I'm just on the cleanup crew. This is you guys' group. We'll come in. We may vent if we have to vent. If one of us sees something that's wrong with something that we're doing, we may correct, we may educate. We even had somebody come into the group to teach us a lesson about working better with brands, because we know that there are brands looking to work with people of color, but some of us may not be at that place yet where we can present to that level. And it was another member who pays this person, right, who had them come in and say, hey, I want you to come talk to my group because there's so many great people here. I've leveled up. I want them to level up too. Hmm. So, that group is very, very, very special to me. And they pushed me to create a live event where we could have some more of the influencers who are not in the group be able to come together so that we can learn together and talk about some of the special things that are affecting our community. So this year I had Elevate Influencer, which is a conference. It was the first one in New York, and it went so well that at the last of the conference, they're like, okay, when's the next one? Where's the next one going to be next year? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do it. They're like, no. So yeah, so next year when it happens, we're going to buy tickets right now for the next one. So it's like I didn't even have a choice, and that's because the mastermind forced me into it. But they realized the need for, what it is that we're doing and just how special what it is that we do is. Now, with that said, we created the Elevate Community Group because we're finally seeing more people of color in the finance space, and we wanted them to feel like how we felt. Like there were other people out there who are doing this. We can collaborate together. We can have this further each other's business and have this kind of feeling that we're growing this community and we're servicing the community. I will say that I have struggled to get the same kind of feeling in the group. And I know that the difference is that everyone in the mastermind knew at least 4 or 5 people that are already in the mastermind.
Yeah.
People in the community group where they may only know one person and they've been invited in, and they're afraid to really share because they feel like they might lose something by sharing, with us. We always, every month, Dr. Eric Patrick invites people to share like a blog post or something that they've done that we could share within the community. Because to be quite honest with you, I share other people's stuff very often, because if I'm not the person you want to connect with, there's somebody else in the group that you might want to connect with that might work for you. So I share a lot of other people's things. But even when we call for people to share, they don't often share. And I feel like it's such a missed opportunity because they don't know the feeling that we created in the mastermind and how special this group could really, really be, how much of a force the group could be. And this is the group that I struggle with. The big group, not a problem. The 11,000 people, not a problem. Feels intimate, feels great. Moderators are working. The mastermind, not a problem. We're family, we're the Browns. The community group at 200 and change, growing, that's the one that's struggling, which is kind of weird to me because that feels like it should be easier than the 11,000 people group, right? But I think
it does.
I think it's the content and the fact that we're all in the same space and people just aren't sure and they don't know us as well. And I think they're not sure about our intentions,
Yeah, it's always hard to build up the trust in a group.
Trust.
And it really sounds like for your larger group, that one there, you're kind of like you're like the president of that group. You're running everything. You got it going. You're moderating. You're kind of keeping the conversation going, and people are interacting with each other. Where when you drop down to the much smaller group, you're looking at a situation where this is more so you're just as much of a part of it as everyone else, and you can be more of a participant than the person running it. And then the next group, the Elevate Community one, kind of falls in the middle somewhere in there. Which I can definitely see the dynamic and the change as you move from one size to the next. And so I want to ask you, like, the final question for you was, what is your feelings then on group size? And if someone's thinking of, I want to build a group, and I mean, it's really hard to say I want to build an 11,000 person group. Nobody start out that way. You don't get all those people all at once.
Yeah.
But for you and your perspective, if someone's looking to build this community, build some type of community for themselves and for the people who either they're working with or who the people are kind of enjoying what they're putting out, what would you recommend? Do you recommend aiming for that large group? Do you like keeping it small? Do you like what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you have to start first with what's the goal of your group.
Hmm.
Is for Elevate Community, it is for me to foster the community, to for us to build collaboration, for us to know that there are other people out there, to pass opportunities on, for brands to know that we exist, for our audiences to know about each other. That's my end goal. Different than Hustle Crew, where it's to help you make money and live your best financial life. That's what I started with. So I think you start with what your end goal is. And also, when I started the Hustle Crew, it was just, I'm taking you guys are forcing me to come off of this platform onto this platform because you want to be able to interact with me more when I'm not, broadcasting live. And that was probably not the best way to start it. And having started the other groups, I started with the end goal in mind. And, the end goal for the mastermind was to build a community where people of color knew that we existed and that we could, band together to kind of help uplift the community. We've still kept that as our core competency. For the Hustle Crew, we were always talking about making extra money, right? And it's still very, very core to the group. Now, that doesn't mean that things don't change, right? So as the group has evolved, for me, managing a large group means that I need to trade a lot of my time in this group. I also means that I need to monetize this group as well because time is money. It's taking me away from something else.
Yeah.
So this has been monetized, but the others haven't been. So if your end goal is to create a group that you can ultimately monetize, start with that in the beginning. If your goal is to build community, start with that in the beginning. And then the size will kind of, it'll happen. If you want to grow your group, of course, there are ways out there for you to grow. You can promote it on your social media, promote it on your sites, guest podcasts, other places, guest hosts, whatever, and promote it. And you can grow your group if that's your goal. For the mastermind, my goal has actually been to go smaller. It went up to 97. I slashed the group in half because I wanted a more intimate feel. For Elevate Community, the more the merrier. But it's not like a goal to necessarily grow the group to as big as it possibly can get. It's having quality, not quantity, right? It's the right person in the group. So I reject people who try to sign up for Elevate Community because I don't think that if you're not in the personal finance space and your audience are not people of color, you're not the right person for the group. And I decline people all the time. For the Hustle Crew, hey, anybody can be a person who wants to make money. Even though the group is almost 95% women, I don't decline men. It just happens that the women gravitate towards it more because they see my picture up there at the group header and they're like, oh, there's another woman out there who's making money, online. Maybe I want to join that group. And I don't have a cap in mind for that group. But as I mentioned, when I felt like it got too big, I have closed it down from getting new members. But that's because I never started with a goal in mind for the group. I never did. So that's kind of evolved. But if I were to start now, I definitely would start with what the end goal is in mind. What's my strategy for this group? And then go from there and build my group with that in mind straight away. Don't do what I did with the Hustle Crew.
So I think that's a great advice to have an actual goal or idea of what you want out of this group in mind before you get started, because it'll go where it's going to go, but at least you have a direction and a focus that you can use to kind of anchor the group as you go along. And I think just have some type of direction in whatever it is that you're trying to build. So I really appreciate that, Sandy. Thank you for that insight, because I have never even really thought about this myself. So it's really interesting to hear someone who's done this on multiple different levels and kind of see your experiences and kind of learn from you and take some of what you're putting out there. So I really appreciate it. And before we get out of here, where can people go if they want to find out more about what you're doing, or maybe they want to ask some questions about how your group is going and what they should be doing, and just who just have a whole list of questions after listening to all the advice you just gave right now?
Yeah, you can connect with me. I'm on social media everywhere as Yes, I Am Cheap. You can email me as cheapskate@yesamcheap.com. I'm always on brand. If you want to find the Hustle Crew, it's thehustlecrew.com. It'll take you to the Facebook group. And yeah, very, very approachable, very reachable. I will share whatever information I can that would help you with your own group. Having done 3 different levels, 3 different experiences, and I think they're each successful in their own right, to be sure. I hope that I have information that I could offer that if somebody wants to start a group, I'm more than happy to share. By the way, I did do a talk last year at FinCon on creating a Facebook group that you could profit from. So there is that video on YouTube that you can find it. And I give a lot of insights about profiting from your Facebook groups because now I do profit from the hustle crew, but I do so in a way that's not obtrusive.
But yeah, I'll make sure we can get some links to that video and then also to all the other sites and ways to contact you that you put out there. So, no, thank you again and really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The Plutus Awards are right around the corner, so Harlan Landis and Miranda Marquardt are back to give us a little bit more information about what is going on with the Plutus Foundation.
Hey, another great podcast. Awesome stuff to listen to. But we also have some very exciting news from the Plutus Foundation. Harlan, let's take it away. Tell us about what's happening with what's next.
Well, I want to briefly talk about the grants that we offer through the Plutus Foundation. Yes, you can actually get money from the Plutus Foundation. I'm excited about this. We've been doing it since the fall of 2016. We have been offering grants for different types of financial literacy projects. What we like to do is focus on members of the community, bloggers, podcasters, educators, people who write about personal finance or talk about personal finance. And for those who go out into their communities or into their schools or in other communities that they might find and present great financial literacy information and entertainment and different things in creative ways. We like to work with them to build those programs and offer resources, including money, to make what they're doing more effective or to expand what they're doing or to even launch something that they would like to do if it's well thought out and planned. So we offer these grants, and we've been doing this since fall of 2016, except for in 2016. In that year, we offered just one in the fall of 2016. Then every year since then, we've been offering 4 different organizations or people or companies grants. At this time, what we do is we offer 2 grants every 6 months, and each of those grants can be valued at up to $2,000. And that is all in the name of financial literacy and doing what this community does best, offline and in front of people, and having a major impact on people's lives. So we are in the midst of our application round. So anyone who is interested in applying for one of these grants can go to plutusfoundation.org, find the application. It's right there. You can see it. It's right on the menu, apply for grants. Go ahead and submit a proposal to receive one of the grants that we will be offering, and we will choose the best of what we receive, and we tend to receive a good number, but there's still a good chance of a great program being selected for this. Once the decision is made, we will this time announce the recipients at the Plutus Awards. So we're really excited to do this every year. We've been doing this for 3 years. It's our 3rd anniversary of these grants. So we're excited to be able to continue to do this thanks to the support that we get from this community.
Yeah, and that's really fun to do the award show. It's really great to honor the people in our community for their great content and their creativity. But I really love that the Plutus Foundation is more the Plutus Awards aren't just, the awards. It's also the Plutus Foundation. And it's also providing a chance for our community members to go out in the community to do good and to raise financial awareness. So it's a really great program and a really great way to just keep expanding beyond just an awards show.
Yeah, we really want to fund you. So if you've got a great idea that you've been sitting on and you want to bring financial literacy to a community, then you should definitely get in touch with us and apply for the grant. Now, this term, this cohort that we have right now, this fall 2019 group of grants that we want to give out, we are looking to do something a little bit different. We want to target specifically underserved communities. We have done this in the past just as a matter of course of how we go about choosing things. If it comes up, there have been cases where we have chosen programs that focus on this. But for this time period, for the fall 2019 round, we want to focus specifically on underserved communities. However, that doesn't mean that if your program doesn't focus on underserved communities, you shouldn't apply, because we are looking for other programs that we will continue to support in 2020. So if you have a great idea, you should definitely submit it. And if you are serving the underserved communities throughout the United States today, then we are going to focus on that for fall of 2019.
And that's very cool. So once again, head on over, apply for a grant, and get out there and do good.
I appreciate you joining us here for another episode. And next week, we are joined by Philip Taylor, aka PT, the creator and founder of FinCon, which is pretty appropriate considering that if you're listening to this episode right when it was released, FinCon is next week. So it'll just be a FinCon themed week all next week. So make sure you're subscribed so you get that episode and more from the Plutus Awards podcast. You can learn more about our guests and the Plutus Awards podcast at plutusawards.com/podcast and on Instagram at Plutus Awards. Again, thanks so much for joining us, and keep creating.